have to be honest, the older I get, the more I wonder whether or not what we're doing with technology makes a lot of sense a lot of the time. That's certainly true when it comes to medical advances, which is what I kind of want to talk about today on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Tuesday, the 24th of May of 2022, Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That's the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. On kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, on minds.com, on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group there, on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be finding me today. Again, the subject for today is medical advances, and I want to talk about that in my notes and let you kind of hear what it is that I had to say when I wrote them. You have to know, I'm that sort of person who pretty much never darkens the doors of medical facilities for my own issues. To be fair, I've had virtually no health issues to speak of for years. Others might argue that's not the case, since I deal with some things they would consider such. From my viewpoint, though, nothing I deal with is at all serious. All that said, I understand that most others end up visiting such places once a year or even a couple of times. I recognize that the whole world has worked to up the medical game such that there are procedures and technologies, including medications and other drugs, far above where we were a comparatively short time ago. What I want folks to understand, though, is not nearly all of the changes that have been made or suggested are good ones. People seeking a magic pill can be sure to find someone who will sell it to them. A great example of this is how type 2 diabetes is handled in the present day. I'm not saying many of the solutions presented are of no value at all. On the other hand, I cannot accept their use on a long-term basis for most, and that's particularly true where people are talking about them being a stopping place. It just doesn't take a genius to figure out there are two major problems that should be looked at to help people with type 2 diabetes, and neither is a magic pill or syringe. The first is diet, and the second is exercise. I'm not trying to say they shouldn't be used in conjunction with various medications and other treatments. But generally, with the exception of folks who cannot get things under control through primary mechanisms, they should be used as stepping stones to get to a place where they're not needed at all, those medications and so forth. If nothing else, that should be the goal. This is the better part of things currently going on. There are some medical considerations currently being used or discussed that are definitely not things that should generally be counted reasonable. An example would be that medications that once delivered report back to people they've been taken. Another example would be puberty blockers, estrogen, testosterone, surgeries, and so forth as a means to change genders. That's particularly true for children. I will tell you directly, when people like me shy away from seeking routine medical access, part of the reason is knowing folks are willing to do the sorts of things I'm talking about here. I'm not going to try to say you should generally be refused any kind of medical activity if you're a consenting adult on my say-so. I am going to suggest you really consider what folks are suggesting and doing at this point. How often do you hear about some pharmaceutical company being sued or whose leadership is being charged as a result of malfeasance or other cavalier perspectives with regard to various medications and procedures? How often have you heard of this happening? I've heard of it a bunch. You can do what you count reasonable. For my part, I'm not interested in most of what the medical community has to sell. I can't even begin to tell you how many times in the very recent past I have heard people talking about things that I go, oh, that doesn't sound like a good idea to me. I cannot begin to talk about how many people I know who were told, yeah, you should do this, only to have the thing that they did affect them in some terribly unfortunate way when they did it. I've talked about the guy I know who had cancer on his aorta that wasn't caught until after they put a pacemaker in. And I thought, really? You put a pacemaker in and you didn't do enough exploratory to check to see whether or not the aorta was bulging or whatever. I don't understand that. But when you talk about medications, I had a medication, I forget what it was for now, maybe arthritis, I can't remember. But the point is, there are medications out there that they say this should help this particular, I think it was arthritis and it gave you heart conditions. Maybe not everybody. Okay, I'm not saying that. There are vaccines that they're talking about having issues, like with the pericardial sac or the heart being enlarged as a result, myocarditis or whatever, I forget exactly. There are any number of things where even with supposedly well-tested medications, people have found out in the course of time that they were responsible for certain things for a sufficient percentage, for a sufficient part of the populace to make it so that it should at least have been questionable whether or not those things should have been put on the market in the first place. I think about thalidomide, right? Perfect example. And a number of other things. I won't tell you, Here's what it comes down to me. I will sort of tell you this. I was thinking to myself, I won't tell you that this happens with just about everything. But when you start talking about doing things like creating synthetic sugar, I know it's not technically a medication, okay? But when you synthesize something that makes sweetness, what are the potential side effects of the chemicals in question when you do so? The same thing applies to just about every medication that you can talk about. And I'll say this for technologies. When you talk about bariatric or lap band or any of the things that are supposedly for weight loss, I concern myself that people are modifying themselves through these techniques and that they're not good ideas. I have a hard time with unnecessary plastic surgery and the like. Joan Rivers died under the knife or after the operation, as I get it. This is something that you have to know is going to potentially happen to people, right? Definitely have a problem with the overuse of medications. Definitely have a problem with body modification. And I particularly will say that when people, for example, decide they want to look female. It doesn't change who you are. You can use makeup to make yourself look female. It won't make you female. You can, same to make you look male. You can use surgery to do that. You can use hormones, as I was talking about earlier in my presentation, and it will not make you into that thing. It will not make you into that thing. Stop taking the hormones. You tell me. Decide, if you kept the appropriate equipment, go to have a baby as a supposed male and see if you can still do it, right? Particularly if you didn't do the hormone therapies, hormone replacement therapies of various kind. I'm just saying, I don't think it makes sense to look at the current crop of medical advances and assume they're all good, any more than it did about the past crop. In fact, we're getting ever more technically convoluted, and I think that means that we're going to see a bunch of problems as a result of these things. I'm not saying that they're never beneficial and that you should never use them. If your life is at risk and you think that you can save your life by doing something, I get it, and I'm not telling you don't do that. And again, look, it's not my job to tell you what you can and can't do. It's not really even your doctor's job. You must make that decision for yourself. It should be informed by a doctor's consent and so forth, but and you can maybe talk about others and see what they have to say about it. But the reality is you will make the decision. But that said, I still don't think it's wisdom to just assume that things are good because people have made them and therefore they should be just fine. I don't think you should do that. This is my perspective on things. Medical advances, I think, have helped a lot of people, but I think they've hurt a lot of people. And I think as time goes on, we start to pass that point of diminishing returns, and it starts to come to that place where people are not benefiting from what other folks are doing. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Has been, if you prefer. I am your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Tuesday, the 24th of May of 2022. That would be working again to the middle of the week. That would be Wednesday, the 25th of May of 2022. That'll be tomorrow, obviously, and that will be essentially the middle of the work week at least. Thank you for everyone who's come along on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there, on kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, on Minds, MINDS.com, on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, primarily there. Sometimes you'll see me on Let's Talk Autism, though this probably will not make it there, on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be seeing or hearing me today. Subject for today has been medical advances, and tomorrow we're going to talk about flooding the zone. And this has to do with going from a world in which employees were pretty much mostly men to a world in which it was men and women. And I want to talk about some things that I've heard others say about this that I think it will be beneficial for you to hear and understand. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you, and hopefully we will see you on tomorrow's. That will be Wednesday, the 25th of May of 22's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was created on Tuesday, the 24th of May of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back tomorrow to check out the next one. Remember, on various platforms, primarily Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub, and the audio podcast, you can subscribe to my content. For the audio podcast, you probably want to use Apple, Google, or Spotify. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. In order to find me on those platforms, you can go to the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub. You can also get to my content on Facebook by finding the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. Minds, MINDS.com, where you will find me at the Kurt's Religion and Politics group. And kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com as well. You can look there. I post my daily video on various social media sites, really only about 3, Parler, Gab, and Twitter at present. I am at KP Schubert on each of them, and you can find me under them, and you can find the videos under me. You should be able to find my podcasts on Google and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's also on podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcasts with an S. .kpschubert.com. If you're looking for me on various of the podcast sites, you probably want to search Kurt's Religion and Politics, not the Daily Summation. Keep in mind you can subscribe to my content on various places that I put it. All constructive feedback is welcome. You can like, dislike, add a rumble, or give whatever feedback is available on any of the platforms that you can do such things. You can also add a comment on what I put there. Unless you're advertising or doing something that I believe will harm others, I'll leave your comments out there even if I don't agree with or understand them. I will try to let you know I've seen them when possible and may reply if I feel it's reasonable, appropriate, and possible, of course. Thanks again for viewing this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back again for tomorrow's